Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, yeah. Live around the world on the interwebs at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. It is the Michael Dukes Show. And I am the aforementioned host of the big radio broadcast. Thank you for coming in and joining us today. This show, in case you're just stumbling across it for the first time, is dedicated to Alaskan talk, Alaskan issues, Alaska politics, and all the stuff that's happening here in the state. This is your clearinghouse of information for news and commentary and stories that are happening here in the Great Land. So feel free to tell your friends about it and share it with them, and tell them that if they want to stay up and stay informed and stay true, this is where they need to tune in every morning. And we'll be talking about issues that concern you and your communities around the state of Alaska here in right on the big radio program. All right. Hi, how are you? Thursday, man. Thursday. Tomorrow is Firearms Friday, and working on some guest discussions. We know that Chris Chang should be joining us tomorrow. We'll fingers crossed at this point. We'll see if he comes in and joins us tomorrow. But tomorrow is at least Chris Chang and Willie Waffle, and potentially one more guest in hour one. And we'll let you know a little bit later whether or not that's going to happen tomorrow or not. The big weekend's upon us. Next week, of course, is Thanksgiving week, and as always, the show will be on hiatus for Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday, and we'll be returning. So it's going to be a 3-day weekend next week. Sorry. And that means that, and I think we're probably going to try and start to lighten things up a little bit. The end of the year, we always like to try and bring in some lighter side stuff. Quite honestly, because we're a little exhausted from having to deal with a lot of the political things. I mean, there's some big work there, folks. There's when you're trying to and take a look and dig down into the details of a lot of political things that are going on in the state, it can be exhausting. So we've reached the end of the year and we're starting to be like, oof, man, So this next month should be fun. We're going to have some great discussions, and then just a quick reminder that as we approach the end of the year, that we'll be taking off that normal time frame that we normally do, which is between Christmas and New Year's. The show will be on hiatus as I recharge the batteries of myself. So between I believe it's Monday the 22nd. Which is Monday the 22nd through Thursday the 1st. So we'll have one show on January 2nd, and then we'll kick things off again on the 5th of January. But from the 22nd to the 1st, we'll be on hiatus for the holidays. So I hope you'll also spend some time with your family and enjoy a little bit of downtime. Get things going this morning. 37 degrees outside the old Radio Ranch here in on top of the world in beautiful Homer, Alaska. 15 in Fairbanks, 15 to 19, I guess, depending on where you're at. 31 up on the hill. 36 in Wasilla. And it's warmed up considerably. All of a sudden, 37 degrees here, and it's raining and slush, and the snow is going on. 32 up in Kenai as well. So kind of the weather's a little bit schizophrenic, can't seem to make up its mind. And we've got some continual weather advisories too, by the way. Same thing's happening up in Anchorage, where right now it's 27 degrees in Anchorage. They've got an advisory for freezing rain and snow, ice accumulation with a glaze of up to 1/10 of an inch, and some trace snow accumulation, Anchorage and Eagle River until noon today. They're warning about impacted driving and hazardous driving conditions. Light precipitation along the Seward and Glen highways, and it's going to be freezing rain, but the precipitation could become heavy enough it may mix with snow and sleet, and then temperatures are expected to rise above freezing later today, and then, well, of course, it will freeze again tonight. So it's going to be a glazed donut out there. In the Kenai Borough, same thing, freezing rain, ice accumulation of up to 1/10 of an inch for the western Kenai Peninsula. Ice accumulation most likely along the Sterling Highway from Sterling to Jean Lake, and then farther south from Ninilchik down to Anchor Point, down towards Homer here. And that is, again, until noon today. They say that there's going to be little to no precipitation is expected to make it west to Kenai City or Nikiski, but along the Sterling Highway corridor, of course, it will be. I'm glad I'm not driving up there today. I'm glad I'm not on the road today, for sure. But be cautious, be advised, and be aware if you're driving anywhere in the South Central or South Peninsula area that it's going to be a little slickery out there as well. Wow, it took me a long time to get around to today's guest, and I apologize for that. Shelley Hughes is going to be joining us in hour 2 today. Candidate for governor. She has now, of course, last week announced her resignation from the legislature to now focus full time on running for governor, and we'll get her take. We'll get her vision for the state, and we're gonna ask some questions about and I'll be honest with you, we're gonna focus in pretty hard on fiscal policy. And we're going to talk a lot about, how do we pay for all the things that we want? And especially we're going to talk about timelines, and some other things, related to that as well. So Shelley Hughes will be joining us in hour 2, and I'm hoping to get some clarification on stuff and things. I like Shelley, and I like a lot of the stuff that she's done in the legislature over the years. And I want to hear her one true vision for, how we pull ourselves out of this tailspin that the state of Alaska appears to be in right now. There's some hard truths coming. Especially in this next legislative session. And I think it's going to be an interesting thing to see. And we're seeing part of that already. In a little bit later in the hour, we're going to talk about this special meeting that happened yesterday, between the I guess it was Legislative Budget and Audit Committee, I guess is who was part of this. But they sat down and they had a discussion with folks from Glenfarne and another organization called Gaffney Klein, which is an energy consulting firm that made a presentation to the legislature, or I guess part of the legislature, this one committee. And they are talking about having Alaskans cover potential losses on a proposed gas line. Now, like I said, we're going to get into this in a little bit because this is this. I'll be honest, this is looking more and more, to me anyway, like a bit of a boondoggle. And I guess it's confirming my suspicions from the very beginning that this was a distractive boondoggle. Because if they're starting to ask for guarantees like this, for which even people like Bert Stedman are like, whoa, how do we pay for something like that? If that's the case, we're going to have some issues. So we're going to talk about that later on here this morning, as well as some of the things that are going on in regards to schools. But the most interesting article that popped up this morning, and I guess I would say provocative, I guess is the word I'm looking for. The most provocative article was written by Robert Herrick, who is a research professor at UAF and was a parent representative on the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District Budget Committee from 2022 to 2024. And it's an interesting article because if you've been listening or watching social media or hearing, I'm sure you've heard that the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District Superintendent won this award, right? The award, which was Luke Minert was named one of the nation's top 10 school district superintendent by Education Insider. Now, somebody, Mr. Herrick here, apparently did not take that at face value. The Facebook post where Luke Minert, where the school district posted it on their social media, they posted it on their Facebook page about how Superintendent Luke Minert had won this prestigious award, and it was then shared across the thing numerous times. Like, look at what a great job they're doing. Even Melissa Burnett yesterday said, congratulations to Luke on, blah, 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 blah. Well, Robert Herrick decided to dig down into this because he's like, okay, so what was the criteria for this? What are we talking? Because again, there are over 19,000 school districts in the United States. And he said it would be truly stupefying if Fairbanks was blessed with a superintendent who was evaluated to be among the top 10 in those 19,000 school districts across the state. By the way, that would be a 0.05 percentile. That's how, you're the top of the top at that point. So he went out and checked out the Education Insider website, and he noticed a few anomalies. He says, nowhere can you find the number of subscribers to the webpage. There's no information regarding the nomination process, the evaluation process, or the qualification of the people who determine their leader awards. He said he examined the digital issue that features the superintendent, and you find that the editorial staff for Education Insider consists of only 7 people. He said, making it all the more impressive that they were able to scour the vast country. Again, remember, 19,000 school districts, and not only find the top 10 superintendents, but also 6 other categories of top 10 education executive. He said, a small but key point worth noting is that nowhere on the website does it say for what group the awardees are in the top 10. The one of the nation's top 10 was added by the school district in its press release, and it's not an accidental staff error that given that Dr. Minert reposted the press piece on his personal Instagram account. So Rob Herrick called up. He reached out to the Education Insider magazine, and he said his email and phone queries have gone unanswered. The parent company of Education Insider, it's called Valley Media, is based in Fort Lauderdale, and it shares the same physical address with other web magazines, including Semiconductor Review, Auto Business Outlook, Insurance Business Review, and Utilities Business Review, that all have their own top 10 lists. So I'll tell you a little story about something like this when I return, okay? But this is looking more and more like Menert solicited from a vanity press an award that has no more importance. This is Robert Herrick's words. The evidence is compelling that Superintendent Menert solicited from a vanity press an award that has no more importance than a world's greatest dad coffee mug. And then he used school district resources to mischaracterize its significance and publicize it. This is interesting. I'm going to tell you a story when we get back about how these things operate and why I found this story so compelling this morning. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, my pretties. How are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Bill says, $5, she will schmooze you and not really answer the hard questions. That's for Shelley Hughes. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, I'm scrolling backwards here a little bit. 32 in Kenai, 24th Kenai Airport, 21 knot wind, says Chris. Well, Kenai is a big place. Excuse me. Kim says he's going to have MD show withdrawals in Christmas time. You get used to it. I mean, this is what we do every year, right? I take that time off every year, and I forget how to do everything. It's amazing. It really is truly amazing. Okay. Glazed donuts, not roads, says Brian. It's something I can get behind, but it's going to be that way. Let's see. Consolidate them all. Let's see. It says she will schmooze. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. 5 districts statewide would be an improvement. We're talking about consolidating school districts. Good morning. It's great that you're taking time off. Thank you. See, reopen Tammy Wilson's investigation into the state of Alaska trafficking children. Okay, Robert, I'm not familiar with that. Tammy and I have had lots of great discussions, but I'm not familiar with that. We'll see if we can find out about that. Okay. Yeah, if you're missing the show, Brian's right. If you're missing the show during the times that I'm on break, you can always go back and listen to a podcast because, if you haven't caught every show, or it's always fun to go back and revisit. So it's a great way to participate in that way as well. So feel free to do it. Good morning, Austin. Thanks for coming on board. That's it. I'm all caught up and ready to go this morning. Oh, I'm gonna need the vacation next week. I'm a little still a little punchy from yesterday or day before. Because I'm starting to get older and you can't run without any sleep for any length of time. It's kind of crazy. What we do have some new listeners, says Rick. Maybe you should show them a pic of your setup. A lot going on in front of you. I have done that. I haven't done that in a while. Boy, I don't even know where my picture is. I have a picture of everything that's rolling at any given time. Well, I suppose I could just take a picture with my phone right now and send it to myself and then post it up there. I suppose that would be easiest. Again, I'm still yep, there we go. How about that? You guys got a lot of stuff going on there. Okay, there you go. So I'll send that to my, whoa, that feels like a fisheye. Did I do a fisheye lens? Oh, it is. That's weird. I don't need that. I want to go. There we go. I didn't even my phone updated and there's like a whole new setting on it, apparently, where I can get a fisheye and get everything together. I got to pull this back all the way back here to be able to get all the screens. So there we go. I'll post this up during the next break. You guys can take a look at it. Oh, I got to do it one more time because I'm an idiot. All right, let's try this. All right. We'll see if that one does it. Well, kind of. All right. So I'll post that up in the next break. How about that? Let's continue on. Oh, shut up, Harold. Jeez. I mean, I'm just shut up, man. Seriously. You're okay.
The Michael Duke Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
Okay, so we're back on the program here. We're running a bunch of different stuff. Okay, so we were just talking about this story in the Alaska Landmine, written by Professor Robert Herrick. He's a research professor at the University of Alaska Fairbanks and was a parent representative on the Fairbanks School Board Budget Committee from 2022 and 2024. So he's obviously invested in educational issues in the state here. And he kind of took some issue, wanted to find out the veracity of this education award that Superintendent Luke Meniert had been, bragging about a little bit, and that the school district had bragged about. And what really got it for me, what really made me think about this, was when he dug into this whole Education Insider thing, which is the name of the online magazine that is named Luke Meniert one of the top 10 superintendents in the country, was that they, at the same physical address that the publisher is supposedly at, there's a bunch of other top 10 top 10 list, prestigious, magazine, online magazine titles, Semiconductor Review, Insurance Business Review, Utility Business Insider. I mean, all these different things. And it reminded me when I was working in Anchorage and I was running the 2 radio stations in Anchorage. The second year we were there, I think I got a thing from a company that wanted to make us the listeners. That was the listener's choice. You could be the listener's choice and have this prestigious award and blah, 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 blah. And all you had to do was give them $179 and they would post you up on their page, give you a press release, give you a placard or a plaque that you could hang up in your business showing that your radio station was one of the top listener choices, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. And I just thought, well, that's clever. I mean, again, there's no backing, there's no metrics behind it, there's no nothing else. It's just they would proclaim you as a listener's choice station. Of course, they had to know, they didn't have to tell you which listeners, who they were talking about, anything else, but it looked official. I mean, it's this really nice looking plaque, and it was all this kind of stuff. And all you had to do was give them the low sum of, I think it was $179 or something. And then you could issue a press release about how you were, and then it would be on the web and it would show, and it looked official. I mean, it was like, and I just thought, wow, talk about how to print money from, how to, there's a way to do it right there. It's all about this smacks very much of that same kind of thing here. And look, if this is what, if Luke, got picked at a random or whatever, or whether he bought it or not, I think that the greatest comment, the greatest quote out of this whole article was the fact that Robert Herrick, this professor from UAF who looked into all this, said, in short, the evidence is compelling that Superintendent Menert solicited from a vanity press an award that has no more importance than a world's greatest dad mug. And then he used that school district resources to mischaracterize its significance and publicize it. If true, continues Robert Herrick, then to me, this is the moral equivalent of lying about a key component of one's resume and could be grounds for dismissal. We certainly need to hear Dr. Menert's side of the story. I implore the Fairbanks North Star Borough to conduct an independent investigation, starting with an examination of all communications between school district employees and Education Insider. That's the thing. If you're just trying to buff up your resume, it's one thing. If you want to put that on your resume as, hey, I won this prestigious award, it's one thing. But then to use the district's resources to publicize it, to have legislators post it up as to what a great job that's going on, to have all these other things go on. And if it turns out that it's one of these vanity magazines, one of these vanity things where you pay a few bucks to get on that's a problem, right? Now, it's not earth-shattering. It's not, it's not the end of the world, but it definitely shows a trend, right? And so this was the most interesting article of all the news stories that I was covering this morning. This is a very interesting story for sure. But it raises some big questions, and quite honestly, it raises some questions about the veracity of Superintendent Menert's, I guess, position on this. He's the one that saved it. He's the one that shared it initially. And did the school district put it up there as kind of a thing? Did they pull it off of his? Because it was initially posted on his own personal Instagram account. It wasn't posted on the Fairbanks school district website or their Facebook page. Did somebody just go above and beyond? Has this kind of gotten out of his control? I don't know. But world's greatest dad mug was the great comparison that I saw there. I'll be watching for some follow-ups on this, because this is some interesting stuff for sure. Speaking of schools and school districts, boy, the Anchorage School District just can't slow down, man. They cannot slow down. They not only did they not close any of the schools that they were proposing to close, even though they've got a $100 million deficit for the coming fiscal year, for here in the future. They went ahead and they've passed a new bond proposal unanimously out of the school board to go up to the state now, and will eventually be put in front of Anchorage voters. The new school board bond is $80 million. $80 million. 79, it's almost $80 million bucks. The plan includes 9 separate projects that would affect 20 Anchorage school districts. But the reintroduction of the state's school bond debt reimbursement program would bring the price for Anchorage voters down to $39 million. This according to Tim Rocky over at the ADN. Okay, so we're talking about the school bond debt reimbursement program. The fact that you are thinking about whether if you are betting on a program like that, you have got some if you're not paying attention to what's going on with the fiscal problems here in the state, and what they're talking about is HB 350, where they're trying to reenact and pull the school bond debt reimbursement program back, into life, essentially, because it's the problem. Again, the problem here is that the state of Alaska doesn't have the money to fully fund that program. And that's been part of the problem from the very beginning. I remember it was in the late 90s. There was a year or two that the state couldn't afford to reimburse the communities for their school bond debt reimbursement, and it caused some real problems. I mean, people lost their minds because, well, we voted these bonds in saying, knowing that we wouldn't have to pay for them, that the state was going to pay for 80% of them or whatever it was. And they're like, nope, there's no guarantee. We will if we can, but there's no guarantee. And it is like it's like an 80-20 pay down. So they're proposing, they're saying basically at the time these projects are anticipated to be eligible for reimbursement, was the memo that Jarrett Bryant gave to the board. But again, eligible for reimbursement does not guarantee reimbursement. Because again, the state has to have the money to pay for these projects. And the state is already in there's some serious stuff going on right now. The most interesting thing of this whole part of this whole deal to me is the fact that this is an $80 million bond package. 2 of the most expensive individual projects are building upgrades to Romig Middle School and Lake Otis Elementary School, which surprisingly was one of the schools that they were going to close. And that together, those 2 schools make up more than $40 million between the 2 of them. 40 million. How much does it cost to build a school? These are upgrades. That's 20 million a piece for these upgrades. How much does it cost to build a school these days? I mean, what? Oh, and by the way, another $3.5 million of this bond reimbursement is for planning and design work to prepare for projects anticipated to be on next year's school bond proposal. Oh, so you're just gonna already, so this is 80 million this year. What is it going to be next year? 50, 60, 80 million next year. And this is what's going on, folks. This is rolling another 50 to 80 million dollars a year every year into the next year's school bond. They're just adding bonds every year. And it's you, the taxpayer, the property tax owners in these areas, in these various communities where these bonds are being passed, that are footing the bill for it. Oh, don't worry. It's only $8 per 100,000. You won't even notice it. Well, compound that for 5 or 6 or 10 years and tell me I won't notice it. Oh, and that's assuming when accounting for the bond debt reimbursement for the state. So if the $8 is 20% of it, what happens when you have to pay 100% of it? Now it's not $8 a thousand. Now it's, what, 40, $50 a thousand? Now multiply that times 5 or 10 years. For things that they're adding it every freaking year. I mean, Something's got to give, man. Something has got to give on this. There is way too much. I mean, it's like layer after layer of spending and planning and spending, more projects and gamesmanship and everything else. We've got to feed the beast. How many people are wrapped up into every layer of this, from the education side of actually educating the kids, to all the buildings and the infrastructure and the deferred maintenance and the bonds and everything else? Man, everyone's getting paid apparently, except for the taxpayer. They're the ones footing the bill and being told if they don't do it, they hate the children. $80 million bond package. But don't worry, the state will pay for it. How? How is the state going to pay for it? Oof, man. All right, we are coming up on the break. We got more coming up. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. We'll be back right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. All right, let me I'll share this. Whoops. Let me go back here. I can do this a different way. Look at that. So many jats. So many. I don't want to know. I want to do, here we go. Right there. Okay. So I sent the picture to myself. Good morning, my friends. How you guys doing? All right. Yeah, just so that you can see what this looks like. There we go. Let me hit you with this. Let me hit you with this picture here, because I thought thank you, Rick, for bringing that up. Image 10. All right. Because Rick's like, we got a bunch of new people in here. Sometimes you sound a little. I think he was basically saying sometimes I sound a little distracted. Well, that's because I am a little distracted. Because yeah. Fit to screen. There we go. All right. Yeah. So just so you guys know, this is what I'm looking at all the time, not to mention the mixing board and all the other stuff. It's all those screens all the time with all the little other windows and screens and everything else. There's a lot of stuff going on when we're doing this thing. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on when we are running the show and trying to do everything all at the same time. So thanks. Yeah, I know exactly. It's easy for me to be distracted because there's things and flashing and lights and bugs and windows and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's easy for me to get distracted and do different things. So anyway, thank you, Rick, for bringing that up. All right, let me go back up here and see what's going on. Complex fiscal issues here. I thought, yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry. Brian was responding to Harold's comment about complex fiscal issues here. I thought stop giving away our oil was a solution. I thought consolidating school districts was a solution. But, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Horror stories, 70. Brian says, I used to get those offers all the time. Who's who of geologists for a small fee, a bit larger fee if I wanted a picture. Yeah, I mean, it happens, right? I'm sure other people in other industries get it. But this article to me was it was fascinating because nobody had given it a second thought. I hadn't given it a second thought. When I heard that he'd gotten this prestigious award, I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know how, but okay, great. I mean, but thank goodness for this professor, Robert Herrick. Thank goodness that he apparently had the analytical mind enough to go, wait a second. What are the metrics here for this? Yeah, I mean, Chris says, I hope they investigate this guy and this article. I mean, I just hope it brings it to light. Like I said, I mean, I could have been the world's greatest radio show host for only $199.99, right? I could have had a plaque made and everything that said I was the world's greatest radio host. But according to, and it's not like, well, it's not like they're lying. It's just so deceptive. Anyway, it's crazy. How many bonds are still on the book, says Tim? I don't know in the Anchorage area, Tim. I don't know how many bonds are on there, but every year, you got a 20-year bond that's rolling off from 20 years ago, and every year they're adding on another 20-year bond. So you can figure that at any given time, depending on the length of their bonds, that there's 20 years worth of bonds on the books at any given time. And it just depends on how much each year's bond was. But let's face it, if it's $80 million for this year, I mean, let's just round it down. Let's just say it's $50 million a year in bonding. That's $1 billion in bonds over 20 years. Plus the cost of, plus the interest. But over 20 years, that means it's $1 billion in bonds that are sitting out there. Dude, this sounds like such a racket, right? Such a racket. Anyway, it's, missed the opening, says Fat Ray. When's the food talk? We're going to talk about that next week, Fat Ray. We're going to do some food talk and some other stuff. Rick says, I'm a true multitasker. Crazy town. Well, I appreciate it. There's a lot going on, but we're having a good time. Brian says you are. The chat room voted I'm the greatest talk show host in the world. Okay, great. You guys are biased, All right. It is a government racket, Brian. You're not wrong. It is a government racket. All right. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do it.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
That's a great comment in the chat room. David says, there you go again, Michael. Conflating education with school spending. What does one have to do with the other? He's not wrong. What does one have to do with the other? Apparently not much. In this day and age. We were just talking about the bonding issues, and somebody asked in the chat room, do you know how many bonds are, how much, what's their bonding load look like right now? How many bonds are still on the books? Well, if they're doing bonds almost every year, which is what it looks like right now, looking back at this, I mean, they're using $3 million from this year's bond to prepare for next year's bond. And I said, this is $80 million this year, 79 million and change. How about we just round it down to 50 million? Let's say that they pass $50 million in bonds. And you do that every year for 20 years. Because the first year's it's a 20-year bond and it doesn't roll off till the 21st year, right? So in any 20-year period of time, they have $1 billion of bonds on the books. 1.2 billion if you want to, whatever. But $1 billion of bonds on the books at any given time. That's on top of all the money that they get for the education part and everything else. And wow. I mean, just wow. I mean, it's a racket, man. It's a racket. So crazy. And of course, the comment from the school, but where they say, oh, the school bond debt reimbursement program has been reintroduced a couple years ago, and now it's, it'll bring it down to the Anchorage voters. It'll bring it from 80 million down to 79 million down to 39 million. Don't worry, you're only on the hook for, I mean, there's just some crazy stuff happening in this. Anchorage, by the way, the assembly has approved its budget, $657 million for the city of Anchorage, municipality of Anchorage. Now, I will tell you that means in the last 10 years, because I came down to Anchorage and was part of the budget cycle. It was observing the budget cycle, I should say. And I had just come from being on the Fairbanks North Starborough Assembly. I literally moved down there in my final 2 weeks of being a member of the Assembly. And I was watching the budget process at the city of Anchorage. I was interested in it because I'd just gone through, I just come from the Fairbanks part. And so I remember at the time it was $512 million for the school or for the city budget 10 years ago. 512. So we've gone up $150 million in 10 years. We've increased it by, what is that, a fifth? A fifth, essentially, of this 20% increase in 10 years. Oof, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. It only fell, by the way, they do have a tax cap, and it only fell $198,000 below the tax cap. So they've got over $500 million budget, and they were within $200,000 of the tax cap. Wow. And this is why, of course, they've now proposed to put a 3% sales tax before the voters to begin addressing the city's ongoing, what they call ongoing funding limitations. I mean, are you seeing, look, let me just ask you this. Are you seeing a pattern in spending in the various communities, right? I mean, we got Fairbanks where they want to they want to overwrite and override the tax cap put in place by the citizens to the tunes of $10 million. Citizens overwhelmingly, what was the final vote on that? Somebody in the chat room, I think it was 72%, wasn't it? It was 71 or 72% in that last vote a year ago, May, where they said not only no, but hell no, you can't bust the tax cap. And so in their infinite wisdom, because they couldn't get the money because the citizens said no, what did they do? Oh, they took that same $10 million out of their savings and spent it from savings. Because it's not revenue, they can borrow it and pay it back later, right? Now, you can only do that once or twice because then the money's gone in that account. There's nothing left. But and now you've got the city of Anchorage, the municipality of Anchorage, raising things up. Oh, we're going to have this funding shortage. And then you see the state doing we got this revenue shortage. And I mean, do you see the pattern? Do you see do you see all the patterns that are going on in all this government spending? It's just never ending. And when do they get their fiscal house in order? Only when the wheels come off the bus. That's what, when there is a crisis, when there is a catastrophic, failure of the market, depression, inflationary plunge, the Weimar Republic, the only time that you see these things happen is when the wheels come off the bus. And you know who pays the price for that? Not the politicians, not the people in charge. It's the average everyday people who are down there paying their taxes, trying to make a living, eking it out month to month, paycheck to paycheck. They're the ones that are going to pay the price on that. Every one of these jackals figures that we're just too big to fail. and they're got to get their piece of it. I mean, I'm just looking at these stories, one thing after another. It's just crazy. We didn't even get into this Glenfarne thing. This is a thing. Do I have enough time? I've got 2 minutes. I'm going to just synopsize it for you. I'm going to concise it down. So in front of some lawmakers yesterday, and I guess it was the Legislative Budget and Audit Committee, Glenfarne and a company called Gaffney Klein, which is an energy consulting firm, came up and they said that they want the state to cover potential losses for LNG pipeline developers if the state decides to raise taxes or change regulations. That if it hurts the project's economics in any way, they want the state to make them whole. They're called what are they called? What kind of guarantees? They're called it's a blah 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 fiscal stability. They're called guarantees. Slide from the presentation by Gaffney Klein showed that during more than a 3-hour meeting, that could mean a tax freeze or freezing the tax system for the project's life. They're looking for these kind of guarantees from the state of Alaska. And Bert Stedman, I thought, was very clear on this. He goes, I understand the potential huge multi-generational impact on the state if this is positive. I mean, it could be very, as well as being very positive. He said, concentrating on the benefit of the project that we know, if it's successful, could be very beneficial. But if it's unsuccessful, it would be detrimental for generations. Like you said, Stedman, a lot of times he sees some of this stuff and I think he's got some good takes on things. But essentially, they're asking for Alaska to step up to the plate and guarantee that if anything that they do changes the metrics at all, that the state of Alaska would be on the hook for this. This, folks, is looking more and more like a boondoggle. I mean, I've always been suspicious of it from the very beginning because I've been through this so many times over the whole gas thing, but this is looking more and more like a boondoggle. We still don't have a total price. We don't have a cost. They said the project expected to begin construction in 2026, waiting for one final permit expected in December, but there's no cost. How is that going to? Again, it's a racket. Maybe I should just get on board and ride the gravy train with everybody else. I don't know. It's because we're not fixing it. Back with more. I mean, what is going to happen here? Brian says, but on the other hand, the Alaska legislature has a bit of a reputation as being fickle. But come on, Brian. I mean, how many times have we changed the oil taxation scheme? 4 times, 3 times, 4 times? Over the course of 50 years? That doesn't seem that fickle in that regard. But I mean, asking for a guarantee that if anything changes, not just taxation, but regulation, that was what got me, was that if there was any regulation, I'm looking for the story again here, any regulations that hurt the project's economics. So maybe it's something that's beyond our control. Maybe there's a change not in state regulation. Maybe there's a change in federal regulation that hurts the project's economics. Well, then are we on the hook for that? Once they get started? Right? I mean, this is... I can't believe that this is where we're at on this right now, this whole project. And I've talked to so many people who are like, oh, it's going to work. Can you believe it? We're going to have gas and everything else. And I'm like, do you understand the economics and the metrics of this? And they're like, well, no, the thing. And then I start to explain it to them, and their jaws just drop. And again, look, folks, I mean, I'm not a rocket surgeon, right? I mean, I'm not an economist. I'm not a gas line guy, but I can at least look at the numbers as they're laid out and then look at my past experience in dealing with things like the Gas Line Port Authority and the Interior Gas Utility and all the players and movers and shakers and all this. I mean, this... Okay, I'm just going to put my money on the table right here. My money on the table right here says... the gas line's not going to get built because, again, we still don't have the price tag, $44 billion. That's 10 years old. That was the Walker price tag, $44 billion, right? That was pre-COVID, pre-tariffs, pre-Japan, Japanese buying U.S. steel. That's pre all those other. Are you telling me that price tag is not going to go up? I mean, are you saying that, it's still going to be $44 billion? We're talking 60, 70, maybe $80 billion. And if anybody read the Wood Mackenzie report, they had 3 or 4 different options, the most glowing of which was the 80% subsidy option, which still delivered gas at $3 over market value. How are you going to compete? I want gas. I want a pipeline, but you just can't pretend that it's going to happen. There's got to be economics behind it. And now you've got this, we need a guarantee that it'll all be fine or you'll make us whole. With what money are we going to make you whole? I don't know. All right. Sorry, I'll get off that soapbox. I'm just so frustrated to watch people be hornswoggled on that. All right. I see that Shelley Hughes is sitting patiently in the green room, drinking my virtual coffee and eating my virtual donuts. So we're going to go over there and let's check in with her, make sure the audio and video is all good and working, and then we will kick things off here in about a minute and a half. We'll check her first. And I'll bring her up here. Good morning, Shelley. How are you?
Good morning, Michael, and good morning to all your listeners.
Yeah, how are you? You all good? Ready to go?
I am. My voice is coming back. About a week or so ago, I had 100% laryngitis.
Oh, geez.
First time in my life, I couldn't get a peep, so a little bit gravelly still, but it's coming back.
Man, I can't imagine.
Being a candidate for governor and not having a voice is an interesting dilemma.
Yeah, no, that'd be like being a radio show host with no voice. That would be,
Exactly.
How would you do that? All right. Well, I'll put you back in the green room and we'll hold out here for just a second. We're getting ready to jump back into this and we'll get things started in just a moment. And your website, by the way, is HughesForGovernor.com, right? Is that correct?
It's Alaskansforhughes.com.
Alaskansforhughes.com. Okay. All right. I'll put that up here in just a second as well. All right. Shelley Hughes, our guest, Alaskansforhughes.com. All right. I'm just making sure I got the, no, I didn't. I apparently didn't type it right. Alaskansforhughes.com. Okay, got it. All right. We'll do this here. There we go. What? It did not like. I tried to load that site and it did not like that. It's finally loaded, but man, it stuttered the whole stream. Sorry about that, guys. All right, here we go. The Michael. I think my internet is like, whoa, no, don't do that. Don't load a website. All right, we'll be back. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Let's do this.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this yo favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to hour 2 of the big radio show for Thursday. We are ready to rock and roll. 36 degrees outside the radio ranch here on top of the world in Homer, Alaska. Warm, pretty warm across the state. Again, big weather advisories if you're down in the Anchorage area, I guess Anchorage and Matsu, if you're looking to travel today, because they're expecting ice glazing on the highways up to 1/10 of an inch, with travel on both the Seward and the Glen highways being a little skatey. It's going to be a little skatey out there. That's up until noon today or so. Also, if you're down in the Kenai area, ice accumulation, a glaze of up to 1/10 of an inch, mostly along the Sterling Highway. It looks like Kenai, the city of Kenai and Nikiski are going to dodge the bullet. But everywhere else up and down the Sterling Highway, all the way down to Anchor Point, expecting hazardous driving conditions to impact your morning commute this morning. So please drive cautiously, drive carefully, keep the rubber side down, and take your time. Joining us on the program this morning here in hour 2 is gubernatorial candidate Shelley Hughes. And I want to dive into it here with Shelley and get things started because, we've got questions. And Shelley and I have long been talking about problems that are here in the state. And now she's decided to take this on as a full-time gig. She has resigned as the senator from the Matsu to focus on this full-time. And let's take a moment here to sit down and chat with her and get some details of everything that's going on. Shelley Hughes joins us right now. Good morning, Shelley.
Good morning, Michael, and to all your listeners. Glad to be with you. It's been a while.
It's been a while, been a hot minute. Shelley has been suffering from a little bit of laryngitis, so she's graciously agreed to come on the program to talk about things today, and so I appreciate her taking the time out. So Shelley, you made the big decision. Let's talk first about that, to pull the ripcord and decide that you aren't going to try and be a senator and run for governor, because there's some restrictions there, right? I mean, you can't fundraise, you can't go out and politic essentially during the session. I mean, you could, because if you didn't make it, then you'd still be a senator. But this was a decision that it's got some pretty weighty things that happened to it. So talk to us about that decision first.
Yeah, it would be difficult to do the traveling. You'd miss votes, and I'm one to stay down there and represent my district and with the votes. And it really being juggling the focus too isn't really fair to District M. They need somebody who has their sole focus on representing them in the Senate. And I didn't want to be divided in that way. And also to allow timing. I know there was some little bit of inaccurate information out there in some of the publications and on another radio talk show that had I waited a few more days, it might have helped make sure that there was the confirmations for Senator Shower's replacement. But actually, that's absolutely not true. The math is the same. Both would take the minority plus one majority member, because your totals change. If I were in, there'd be 10, and it would take 5. The majority would be 6, of course. So 5 minority members plus 1, 5 minority and 1 majority. And if you drop one time out, it's down to 9. And so then you need 5 to get the person confirmed, so that there'd be 4 minority members and one majority member. So it didn't change. And also staying in for a few days or even a few weeks was no guarantee, Michael, because the party has an 8-day, once the resignation is effective, the party has an 8-day process before the districts meet to give notification and get the applications in, review them to make sure the candidates are eligible to serve that district. So that's 8 days. And the governor has 30 days. But here's the kicker. The Senate Republicans, there's no timeline on how long they take. And because just like Senator Shower's district likely is going to involve a House replacement, so is District M. And, you know, the people in District M, Michael, they have been my peeps for more than 12 years. And I want to leave them with representation. And what I would not like is the gavel to come down in Juneau and January. And not only there not be a senator, but we'd be in limbo with House members as well. So needed to get the ball rolling. The math is the same. I certainly would never, ever, ever leave my district or the Mat-Su in jeopardy. So that information went out there, but it wasn't correct.
No, I mean, and I heard some rumors about that, some rumbling about that. And I was like, that math doesn't work out. And besides, I mean, this confirmation won't even take place until after January the 21st. So do you just wait around and then you've got a 30-day window and then all this other, I mean, it just creates to me, it just gets more messy if you try and wait until the session kicks off and then you resign. And then, you know, I mean, it doesn't, to me, it didn't make any sense.
So I haven't heard that, Michael, I haven't heard that the confirmation is going to wait as long as the 21st when the
do they have to do it? Do they have to do it early, or they can do it out of session?
There are no restrictions on when they do it, but typically they do not wait because, and you know, Senator Stevens, we don't agree on many policy things, but he understands, you know, it takes some doing especially if there's a new member in the House, little orientation, getting a place to live, getting settled, their office set up, there's all that to take place. So I don't think they'll delay it that long. When I was appointed when Representative Carl Gatto passed away of cancer, and it happened, the vote was done over the phone. It was the Speaker Chenault at the time, and it didn't, I don't know if it was a week or two after the governor named, you know, got the list and chose who he was putting forward. So I think we're going to be good. I think we're going to be good. And the other thing is we know where the Senate majority Republicans are on pensions, and not everyone over there wants to reinstate pensions. There's one person who understands it would break the bank, and that's Bert Stedman. Yeah. So I can't speak for him, of course, but I would think he would welcome another vote on his side of that issue.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great. Which leads me to the question as we continue to talk about your replacement. Are you endorsing anybody? Are you recommending anybody for your replacement, or saying, you know, this would be a good choice? I know that Kathy Tilton has expressed an interest. I am not familiar with any of the other names that have come up yet, but I know that Kathy Tilton has expressed an interest to join that. Are you endorsing anybody, or saying, you know, supporting one of the potential appointees?
Well, first of all, Delana Johnson has announced she is not going to run. And I think that's really good for Mat-Su because she has great potential to be in leadership in the House. You know, whether they're a minority or a majority, she has seniority. She's also in a kind of a great place because there's been, you know, how there can be factions in a group, and she's kind of stayed out of that. And so I think she's been somewhat neutral. And so I think she has a great chance if we take back the House for her to be the speaker or certainly co-chair. She's good with numbers as well. So that was a wise choice, I think, for her. So you really, right now we have Representative Kathy Tilton, who's actually filed in campaigning. I went to a fundraiser for her. And I think having someone with experience rather than a brand new newcomer makes sense. You know, some tout, oh, you don't need experience, but I tell you, there is some learning the ropes that takes place, and you can be taken advantage. A district can be taken advantage of if you don't have someone with experience right out of the gate in the Senate. You know, it's a smaller body, and things can happen. So there's not the protection of as many colleagues, I guess you'd say. So I think Kathy Tilton would make a great senator. And so far, nobody else has filed. And here's the real deal too, Michael. Even if someone else filed for the Senate seat, it's highly unlikely they could beat her because she has always had very high percentages in her races. And she's actually, before redistricting, she represented a large portion of the Palmer side of the district that Representative Delaney Johnson has now. So she's very well known, very well liked, and she would win in August. So yeah, I think she's probably the ticket, and I'm supporting her for her race, and I think she'd be good. But it's up to the districts who put forward their names and who the voters in District M choose.
Final question on this part, because it then leads me to the question of the domino effect. Because if we do pull somebody from the House for Shower's seat and pull Kathy out of the House for your seat, what do you see? Do you see any challenges in replacing those House members as well? Or do you think that this, because of the current balance, the current makeup, and the way things are, it will just kind of be business as usual and we'll pick somebody? What are you thinking there?
I think the districts, both on Shower side and on District M, 25 and 26, they're very consistent. They're going to put someone forward that will not tip the balance. They will be strong conservatives. They will vet them. They're already vetting because people express interest, right? I think it'll be a little more interesting and fun because these are going to be new people that we get to know, and I'm sure you'll probably have them on your show. But I think it will not change the dynamics of the delegation or of the makeup of the House Republicans.
Shelley Hughes is our guest candidate for governor. You can find her, by the way, over at AlaskansForHughes.com. That's the website address if you want to check out her platform and see where she stands on the issues and everything else. I'm posting that link up in the chat room right now, AlaskansForHughes.com. Shelley, we'll finish up here as we come up to the first break here, but I guess my question is, why do you want to be governor now? I mean, why, what, because I'll be honest, as we look at the 10-year forecast, we look at the financial issues, we look at everything that's going on, the fiscal plight of the state. This is a tough time. This is going to be, the next governor is going to be facing some real challenges that previous governors have not, to the scope that we're talking about, have not had to face yet. So why do you want to be governor now?
Great question. And in June, I was interviewed before I made my final decision. I looked at it and said, I'm not sure I want to do it because it's going to be a very hard term. It's going to be a term where the governor is going to have someone mad at them constantly because of the fiscal situation. It's going to be very tough. And, do I want to step into this? I wouldn't necessarily have to. And I will tell you this, Michael, I looked at who had filed, who was the names being floated. And I knew that the good Lord gave me certain gifts. And I am not perfect by any means, but I have the fighter in me on one side, and I have the consensus builder negotiator on the other side, very much like Trump. Now, my language isn't like isn't like Trump, but you have those two modes are very important. And we have some candidates right now who have the fighter. We have some that are more the negotiator, but I've got both, and I can switch gears when I need to. I can stand my ground when I need to and fight. That's what we did when I led the repeal of SB 91. And I was sitting across the table from Matt Clayman, who was trying to cling to everything in the bill. So there are times where you really need to, that was a really interesting one because I was a fighter and a negotiator at the same time. Those gears, I was moving between the two. So really have that ability. And, when people say, a political outsider is better, well, in some cases it can be, but I want to ask you a question. Do you think Trump has been more effective and has gotten more done in his second term than in his first? Definitely in his second term.
Yeah, no,
because
I think in his second term he's done a lot of stuff. He came in with a plan,
yes.
which I thought he learned a lot in term one and then came back with a plan in term two.
Yes. He also knew the issues. He knew the players. He knew the process. He knew how they could trip him up, right? So, I've been observing how things have gone wrong. And I've come up with things, this is a solution. This is the path. This is how you get there. So I think experience, if you stand strong on your conservative values and you know the issues and the people that are going to be involved, I can navigate the helm better, I believe, than the other candidates. And they're my friends, they're good people, and we agree on many, many principles. But it's actually, do they have the ability on day one when I'm your governor, Michael, and am sworn in? We're going to have a short window with a friendly federal administration, and we must take advantage of that. One of the first things that I'm going to do on day one is I'm going to take the Susitna-Watana Dam off the shelf. That was shut down under Walker. Obama would not have issued the FERC license. I believe we can get the FERC license. I know you were talking about the gas line. And even if the gas line and Trump's tariffs and the pressures, somehow it pulls together. Here's the deal. That's only going to prevent very expensive imported gas, but it's not going to get us to cheap gas. And under my administration, we will not just talk about achieving cheap energy. We will get there. We will achieve it. And you have to pair. If the gas line comes through, fabulous. If it doesn't, but you've got to work on all these other things. And hydro, we are blessed with 3 million lakes, 12,000 rivers. That I believe we can get that FERC license. And there's so many other potential hydro sites across Alaska. Just in the tiny portion of Southeast Alaska, there have been pinpointed over 200 hydro sites. We have an opulent supply of hydro, and we need to put it to use. The small modular reactors, the nuclear micro reactors, they're coming on board. They will be available in 2030. We're going to blink our eyes. Those small, safe, contained micro reactors are going to be available. We need to be ready to go for that. And as far as the funding and the fiscal side of this, I will tell you that the 11 nations that were in Anchorage for the energy conference voicing interest of helping fund the gas line, that was up on the stage. But down on the floor of that conference, they were interested in helping finance the dam project. We don't know the price tag on that, but that's going to be a priority. And you know what, doggone it, we have a right to develop our resources responsibility, and we're going to stop listening to the environmental activists who've been trying to shut down Alaska for years. I'm a huge fan of Alex Epstein, who wrote the book, The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels. And we have to take our rightful place. And once you achieve cheap energy, and you probably need to shut me down here because your time limit. Once you achieve it, Michael, you're going to be able to expand our tax base. You're going to bring in new industry. You're going to open up mining. Power, the cost of power is very inhibited in mining. Those are great, high-paying jobs. We are going to have an economic revival under my administration, and that will help address the state's fiscal situation. It'll help keep our young people here. It will help families thrive. It will help lower the number of people right now that are on welfare, which is absolutely, positively unsustainable. And I'll stop here so you can.
All right. Well, I appreciate it because we are up against the break. We're running a little long here. We're going to continue. Shelley Hughes is our guest. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, Shelley Hughes is our guest, and we are ready to go here in the chat room. Let me take some questions from the chat room here as we're going through. I'm sorry. The micro reactors are great, but the way they're testing does not provide 100% power to Eielson yet. I mean, again, Eielson's a test bed, so yeah, I wouldn't expect it to provide 100% power yet. That's one of the things. I think, the micronuclear is probably the greatest thing that we have available to us here in the short term. Let's see. How does Shelley, this is from David Boyle, how would you best balance the state's budget? Reduce spending, smaller government, etc. What's your perfect balance there in pulling the budget together?
Yeah, thank you, David. Well, I was part of the fiscal plan working group, so I understand those. And that again, you come in and just as a fighter, and you don't have the kind of relationships with legislators. And there was a comment made by someone, oh, if you're friends with legislators and you'll be afraid to do something. Oh my goodness. If anybody knows my track record, I don't have a problem taking a stand. I base what I do on principle, right? It's on principle. And I can maintain a friendship with someone and may totally disagree with them. So David, great question. I believe it's a combination of reducing spending, right-sizing government, but very importantly, expanding the tax base as well. We have been, and what that does, when I say expand the tax base, David and Michael, that means growing the private sector. We have a very lopsided state with a very large public sector in ratio to our private sector. And that has been our problem. And that is why we are where we are today. So the cheap energy is key. I don't know, when we go back live to your audience, Michael, I want to mention
2.5 minutes.
Yeah, I want to mention the coal that we have in this state. That is definitely another option. Definitely don't want to be. We're not going to do the government subsidy thing on these things that don't make sense and they're intermittent. But there are a couple of them that could, if they were developed and didn't need government subsidies, would make sense. One of those is geothermal. It's steady, reliable, and that's what you want if you're going to do a renewable, just like hydro. Tidal also, that's every day. Maybe someday that'll be developed. Those may make sense. But right now we have to look at the micro reactors. We have to look at hydro. And I think we should look. I mean, Fairbanks is using our coal. It's among the cleanest coal in the world. There's actually, I was speaking with there in Healy, and if you put a power plant, use that coal, and you put the power plant right there in Healy, I mean, that would be a very efficient way to do it, and run your electric lines from there along the rail belt. That's a possibility, and I think that's worth discussing and considering as also a way to get our power down. Of course, we have to do a little work on our grid, but that's important. Yeah. So David, I know David's familiar with the spending plan, and I will add that what's not in the spending plan that I'm a huge proponent of, and that's a sunset commission. That's necessary. And I tell you, when it was introduced a couple of years ago, there was actually interest on both sides of the aisle for that, for different reasons. And if your listeners don't know what that is a deep dive audit that does not sit on a shelf. It goes in a bill and has to be heard by the legislature on that particular agency, or that agency sunsets. So it really motivates the legislature to take up the bill.
We're getting down to 30 seconds here. I don't have time for another question before we get to it. So we're just going to continue on. Shelley Hughes is our guest. We're ready to get back to it. Don't forget to like and share and, feed the algorithm. Make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube, because I've been putting up a lot of shorts over there on YouTube with some little concise bits, little 1-minute bits of some of our interviews. And it's a great way to get other Alaskans involved if you want to share those shorts with them. But you got to subscribe to YouTube to be able to see them. Let's get back to it. Here we go. We're 8 seconds out. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe. Let's go.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Yes, I am. A little bit of a pain in the show. Welcome back to the program, The Michael Duke Show. Our guest today, Shelley Hughes, candidate for governor You can find her at alaskansforhughes.com, where she's got a link there on all the issues and things that she's been talking about. The biggest crisis or the biggest problem that the incoming governor is going to face, Shelley, as we mentioned earlier, is the fiscal doom that's coming towards us, right? I mean, $1 billion a year minimum deficit for the next 10 years, according to the governor's fairly rosy 10-year projection. I mean, his assumptions in that 10-year plan are essentially almost flat funding. And yet, even with that, we're seeing $1.5 billion budgets. We don't know what the supplemental is going to be this year, but it's rumored to be somewhere between $200 and $280 million that we haven't even accounted for yet. And we already have $1 billion+ deficit coming into this next year, which the incoming governor wouldn't have to deal with. But I mean, it's just indicative of the whole problem here. And I think that, I mean, you did a good job here on your website, as the number one issue that you're facing is fiscal strength, and saying forging Alaska's fiscal plan. Now, you were a member of the Fiscal Policy Working Group. You mentioned that during the break, and they had a plan that it would, had 6 or 7 different moving parts in it. And essentially everybody on that commission or working group, these were people who disagreed on almost everything, right? I mean, this is a very separate group of people, but in the end, they unanimously agreed that these 6 or 7 things all needed to be done in conjunction to make it work. You couldn't do one thing in isolation. And there are some pieces on your page that talk about a couple of the things that were in that plan, especially establishing a spending cap and protecting the permanent fund. But I want you to walk me through your long-term fiscal plan here, because I'm concerned that I'm concerned that what I'm seeing here on the page doesn't go far enough, especially in comparison to what we saw come out of the working group. So walk me through it. The Sunset Commission is obviously first. That wasn't part of the working group, although I think it's a great addition. But walk me through this, and then again, compare to what you were seeing and working on in the Fiscal Policy Working Group.
So the piece that you see missing is implementing taxes. Is that, let's cut to the chase, the elephant in the room. Is that what you're talking about, Michael?
I'm talking about the increase. I'm talking about the cuts, because it called for cuts. It called for some form of taxation, and it called for an adjustment to the oil taxation as well. Those 3 things are specifically missing from your fiscal page.
So if in the discussion, I was in those all those discussions as far as the fiscal plan working group, and actually the presentation of the paper, that there was nothing that you had to raise taxes. It was increasing revenue. So I believe at this juncture, we are losing young people, for instance, from the state, and we have 1 in 3 on Medicaid as an example, compared to 1 in 5 nationally, which is absolutely not sustainable.
Right.
So, and oil prices and the production amount isn't what it used to be, and that's going to ramp up. So you're going to have a period where it's tough, and that period is going to be during the next governor's term. That's why I didn't just jump on board. Yes, I want to do this. And by the way, in that interview, the group, which it will remain unnamed, had interviewed other candidates. And they said, you are the only one that had solutions. You are the only one who realized what a tough term it's going to be and is hesitating stepping forward because it's tough. And you're the only one who seems to be in it to actually fix what's broken, and not for the power and the position, the prestige. So, this isn't about me. This is about what Alaskans need in order to live. What does the single mom need to be able to do to be able to live? And that's where the cheap energy that's going to bring. That doesn't just lower the utility bills. It lowers costs across the board. It will lower the cost of government. It will lower the cost of running schools. Power is the overhead of every business, every company, every institution, and it will affect the cost of all goods and services. So I just want to get out there. So it's about, I believe that I am the best suited to get these things across the finish line, because I have a track record of doing that. I don't have a track record of folding. I have a track record of standing strong and knowing how to work with people, being a fighter when I need to, building consensus when I need to. And so we can get there. But right now, Michael, I do not believe raising taxes is the answer. We have to seize the opportunity that the federal administration has before us. When you expand the tax base, when you get cheap energy, and the second piece to that is you put Alaskan land in Alaskans' hands. And you do that by releasing state lands. Less than 1% is owned by individuals. I plan with my attorney general to go all the way, Supreme Court if necessary, work with the federal administration to restore some of the federal land grab that occurred at statehood. We did not come into the union on equal footing. When less than 1% of New York is owned by the federal government, we've got a problem when 62% here in Alaska is owned by the federal government. We have to fight for that. I don't know how successful we will be, but we've not had such a friendly federal administration nor a Supreme Court that would be as reasonable on this front. So I think that is a fight that we should do because, in the U.S. Constitution, private property rights was a really big deal because our founders understood how that is so important for the individual and the family's prosperity is to be able to own their own property. And when you pair that with cheap energy, you're going to have the economic revival that we're talking about, and you're going to bring the cost down. I also want to address healthcare costs. There hasn't been a governor that's really done that. I will give kudos to Dunleavy for removing the 80-20 rule. We don't have time to discuss that. That's in court. I don't know what will happen with that. But there are things that we can do to help flatten those costs. These things are what people care about. These are what people are at their kitchen tables concerned about. The cost of groceries. My daughter-in-law, she told me she went into the store. This was in the last couple of weeks. 2 bags of groceries, $200. 2 bags of groceries. It's just my husband and I at our home, so we don't buy the big carts like when, going to Costco and filling up a huge cart when we had kids and all the neighbor kids coming over and the kids after school. But we were having company and we went to Three Bears and we got a big cart of groceries. And part of it was like paper towels and toilet paper. So that made the cart really big. It was over $500 for that one cart. So we have to look, how can we make Alaska a place where families want to stay and raise their families, raise their children, where seniors can make it, where people can meet their budgets and prosper. So all these things have to come together, and there's no easy fix, but we've got to seize that opportunity, Michael. And if we don't, we're going to go in a downward spiral, and you're going to do taxes. There's going to be an income tax, and you're going to have a mass exodus. History shows us, data shows us that states, when they pass an income tax, there is a mass exodus. Our workforce is already slim. Industry is already looking at importing people from outside the state. Sometimes you need that expertise. But I tell you, we need to get people off the Medicaid rolls and give them opportunities for training for good paying jobs. We need to be providing the vocational education training, even middle school and high school, so that those kids can stay there and they're ready to go on to good paying jobs.
Right.
That's what, my vision, Michael, is not fluff. It's not words. It's actual steps. It's an action plan of actual steps that are tangible, pragmatic, and that we can work together and do as a state.
I mean, I like the phases and the steps that you have on your issues page. I mean, they're good, but my question is this, because we've talked about on the program here that we believe, we mean me, and a lot of the listeners agree with me, especially in the chat room, that at this point, based on what we're seeing ahead, taxes are an inevitability for the state of Alaska, some form of tax, because the legislature and the governor, previous governors in this legislature, just cannot stop the spending. And my argument has been that we need to at least have an argument or a discussion about it, because then at least we can find and form the least hurtful form of tax out there, which is why I was grateful that the Fiscal Policy Working Group used some modeling from, I think it was South Dakota, 2.5% sales tax and some other things. I think it needs to at least be part of the conversation, because while your ideas here, including the Sunset Commission, expanding resources and things like that, those are great, but those take time. Those are, a Sunset Commission and developing resources, Watana Dam, whatever. I mean, that's a 4, 5, 8, 9-year process. We're facing billion-dollar deficits tomorrow, right? Next session, the session after that. So with the amount of money that we have here, the permanent fund is virtually gone. We'll get a permanent fund this year because it's an election year, but I very much doubt we'll get a PFD next year, the following year, because, it's only $660 million left in what they paid us. And $1 billion deficit minus 660. I mean, we're still short money. So what do we do in the short term, Shelley? That's my question in the short term.
Thank you for the hard questions. And I don't shy away from hard questions. They're great, Michael. If you look at the fourth bullet under substantially expand Alaska's tax base to increase revenue, that's right there. Adopt a taxpayer bill of rights in the Constitution to ensure revenue measures are temporarily limited, do not raise existing rates, and are approved by voters. So I'm hearing a rumor, we'll see shortly, that Governor Dunleavy may have a sales tax as part of his budget proposal. What you want to do is, we don't want to, simultaneously, as you're bringing the cost of government down, isn't that funny? My hand gets really big as I come close. As you lower the cost of government, if you have to do something temporary and the voters approve, you want to make sure that it's not jacking up the amount of money, right? So that then government grows back up. And that's what the point of that last bullet was. I think we have to be extremely, extremely cautious because we are at a precipice. And we do not want to discourage business. We do not want to discourage new industry. So you have to be incredibly cautious. And so, yes, I acknowledge that. I know better than probably any candidate out there, as far as at the top of the ticket, the dire situation we are in. But I also have done a lot of looking back at what has happened in other states when they raise taxes. The opposite happens is people leave and the economy suffers. Right. And I've been very frank. If you look, and Brad Keithley's been great on this, and his charts. I didn't want to call him Wonder Man like Wonder Woman, but he is that very knowledgeable. And if you look back, let's say a dozen years, we're bringing in $4 billion less than we are now, and there's no way you can cut that and not cause a crash. You'd cause a major, major depression in our state if you did that. There's no way you can even put half of that on the people. So you definitely have to reduce. So any kind of measures, you kind of switch. We had that whole battle here in Mat-Su as far as the gas tax, right? And I think there were people okay to put the gas tax in if you simultaneously lowered the property tax and had the gas tax. But that was not the proposal. Right. The proposal as well, we might do that. Well, right. The voters resoundingly turned it down. So that is we don't want to be bringing in more money than what we need for government. That is, and it's tricky too, because the spending cap, as you know, is a constitutional amendment. That's a high bar, high threshold to get it through. So yes, it's going to be tricky. And ideally, after the fiscal plan working group, I guess there's no reason crying over spilled milk, but a lot of your listeners may not know this, but when we came out, the group of us came out with that, we counted noses because we continued to meet in my office a few times as we came to Juneau after the proposal. We pretty much had 50 of the 60 legislators agree we should move forward with it. The trick was, and the problem was, the 10 or so that didn't chaired the finance committees, chaired the judiciary committees, and were the leadership. And when that happens, you can't get any of the pieces through. So yes, and you have to hook them together. So this won't be effective unless this is effective, and that won't be effective unless this one.
Again,
and so we haven't had.
I was just going to say that's part of the problem here is, like you said, you raise the taxes, it gives them more money. That's why the spending cap had to be there to do it. And there had to be, that's why it had to be a holistic approach. You can't do one thing in isolation. And that's been part of the problem here. And as governor, I want to know how you're going to fix that, but I'm going to give you a chance to reply to that on the other side of this because I'm up against the break. Shelley Hughes is our guest, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio will continue right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
That actually leads me to a question, Shelley, because, again, if you've got 50 legislators who are in agreement, but the 10 who are controlling it, I mean, as governor, you're going to face the same thing. Those same 10 people are basically, or, 8 people, I guess now, with a couple leaving, they're all in there. So even if you do put these plans together, how as a governor are you going to overcome the stonewalling of the recalcitrant, entrenched, business as usual crowd in the legislature?
Yeah, well, I'm not a business as usual gal, so that helps. But because I understand and know them, of course, there's going to be some new players, and who the voters send, that's who we have down there. I understand that, and that's why you want to not just a fighter, but you got to have a consensus builder to make it happen. But you got to have somebody who doesn't fall down on their values and give away the farm. And I've got a track record that I don't do this. Michael, I want to ask you, when you've had other gubernatorial candidates on, are you pressing them on this tax issue like you just did me?
Oh, yeah. No, we're talking about it with everybody because, again, The biggest question is, the big question that every candidate should be asking themselves is, how do we pay for all this? And especially not in the long term, because every candidate, you, Bernadette, every candidate that I've had on has talked about resource development as the magic bullet to fix the state's fiscal situation, which is, in long-term terms, I agree. The problem is that's a 5 to 10 year window. How do we survive the next 5 years? So how do we pay for it now? That's my biggest question. And that's the question that I keep asking every candidate. How do we pay for it now? And if taxation is the only solution, because there's no political will to cut, we could cut $1 billion out of the state government. It would hurt. It would have an effect on the economy. There's no doubt about it, but it could be done. But there's no fiscal will. There's no fiscal will to cut $300 million out of the budget. How are you going to get to $2 billion?
I think when you are at a precipice where you're either going to have to put a tax in, the tax rate's going to have to go up if you don't cut that $350 million or whatever it is, that's when you may see the political will change, because it's going to have to be a trade-off. That is one of the things. Also, I'm not going to go out there and make promises. I mean, there's a candidate out there promising a full PFD, that they're going to give education bureaucrats whatever they think they need to help our students, that they're going to build hundreds of millions of dollars worth of roads. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be real with candidates. And that's one of the reasons it wasn't the reason that I'm running, but I knew it was an important piece to have somebody with a knowledge base that has been honest with Alaskans all these years. I would hold my Facebook Lives and put it out there, wasn't afraid to say what was really going on, would say it in my newsletters, and part of this process where, I don't like seeing myself on video even right now. It's like, but one of the things I'm going to do, Michael, that's different. I don't know that any governor in Alaska has done it. Part of it is the era we're in and social media, but I will use the bully pulpit every day or two. I won't rely on a 2-hour press conference. Yes, I'll have press conferences, a 2-hour press conference every month or two, and rely on the media to deliver my message. Doesn't work because they spin it, right? So I'll be bringing the public along, and that helps then get the legislators to realize, the public really prefers this. They don't want a high tax rate. They want you to cut. And there are things that can be cut. There are things that are not constitutionally, statutorily required. I was learning not too long ago that Alaska is like top in the nation at a certain time of year that's buying furniture, right? The state, they have to use their money or they lose it. So there's this, quick, let's run and buy some furniture and new lamps or whatever. We've got to stop that kind of thing. There's unfilled positions. We have to look at what is actually critical, what is
Right.
critical to operate the state. And I think as we are at a place where it's getting more real, like you said, use the word inevitable, that's when we can pair up and we can start reducing. And by the way, the Sunset Commission has proven in the state of Texas, as an example, to save hundreds of millions of dollars steadily. It's not like Doge that comes in one time, makes the news, and then the money can be put back in by Congress. No, it is longstanding because the statute changes are made to go along with it. And if that agency gets bloated again, it's going to come back again. So it is a very effective way to reduce spending. And there's a public process for the year that the independent objective auditors, who, by the way, they're people who know how to run a lean, mean machine in the business world. So there's a public process for that year that audit is taking place, and then the public process also during the legislative process. So it's a way that's going to be effective, and in the end, it's going to make our government more responsive to the people, because the government is supposed to work for us, right? It's of, for, and by the people. And that's what the Sunset Commission is about. But expanding the tax base, you're right, it takes time. So we're going to have to tighten the belt temporarily. And I think the tightening, when you have the threat of taxes, is going to happen.
Here we go.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
We're continuing now. Shelley Hughes is our guest. She said a couple things during the break here, which I was very pleased to see. You talked about the bully pulpit, and it's been one of my main criticisms of Governor Dunleavy is that, he hasn't appeared on this program in 3 years, maybe. And the last couple times that he appeared, he was on for 8-9 minutes to talk about whatever he wanted to talk about, and then he was gone, not answering questions, which is a complete reversal from where he was earlier on. We'd like to see candidates, and we'd like to see governors and legislators come on the program occasionally. Doesn't have to be every month.
Michael, I will.
Doesn't have to be every month. And like you said, using the bully pulpit, the governor has an amazing amount of power in this state. And the fact that we have social media, he doesn't have to wait or put everything out through the lens of the news media. You can pick up a phone, fire it up, and start talking to the people directly at any time. And that's something that this governor has not done. And it's something that you historically have done through your minutes and through your Facebook lives and things like that. You're going to continue that.
Absolutely, I will. I'm going to tell you two other things I'm going to do that's going to help. And it is a ship. It's not a speedboat that you can just whip around. It's a ship. It's going to take a bit to get it turned. The other thing that I will do is I will meet with Republican legislators during the interim to hammer out what we can get done. And I'll give the example education. That was a bit of a mess. Let's just put it out there. It was a mess because it was unclear. The goalposts seemed to be moving, and the governor lost. Too many Republicans. It was just a mess. So one of the things, let's just use education as an example. Let's say I have 10 things I want to do with education, and I have a retreat or a time with the legislators, understanding we're separate branches, but getting a sense of where there's agreement. And let's say there's 10 things, and I get agreement during the interim that they could go with 5. That is what we would put forward, and we'd be successful with those 5, right? Those are the kind of conversations where it would be very clear where we're standing, the positions, and it would be clear to the public. Those are what we're going to do, and we'd move those through. Another thing that I would do along with the bully pulpit and working with the legislators during the interim to map out where we have agreement and consensus, I would build a war chest, so to speak. That sounds a little aggressive, but watching DeSantis, watching Greg Abbott, that's the kind of thing. Greg Abbott, back to education, he had a bill that involved school choice and some just common sense parental rights thing for education. And you know what? It failed because I believe it was 9 Republicans voted with the Democrats, and the bill failed. So what did Greg Abbott do? Well, he had a war chest. And the next election cycle, he made sure those 9 people didn't come back. None of them came back. And they go back down to the state capitol and they pass the education bill. So, those are things when you have experience and you've been in and you see what goes wrong, it's just a natural way, the way the good Lord wired me, is you start figuring out the strategy to solve that so you don't hit that same blockade again.
Right. We down to about 2.5 minutes here. Real quick, you talked about DeSantis and Abbott, and one of the big things that DeSantis has been talking about is the elimination of property taxes, and that's something that's been a favorite, passionate subject on this show. We're talking about the Fair Tax Act. Is that something you would entertain, or at least have a discussion on? Is how do we eliminate property taxes in the state of Alaska?
Yeah, and you would end up with a sales tax likely to replace that. But, you never ultimately, you don't truly own your property when you have to pay taxes. And I think particularly of senior citizens who maybe they bought their home many years ago and it, only costs $100,000 and now it's worth $500,000. How can they keep up with that on a fixed income? And I know the state has some allowances to help with that, but the principle doesn't change. And so, yes, but you would have, the property tax not being there, you would definitely be looking at probably a sales tax. But, that's the problem. What's happening in the municipality of Anchorage, and that's where I am on the tax thing is, let's not start implementing a bunch of new taxes and bringing in a bunch of new money to grow the government. That's what you have to prevent. And you have to make sure the voters are on board. And you have to make sure they have sunset dates so they can be reviewed. And the incoming legislator down the road has to make those hard decisions. And they're not going to put it forward again if it doesn't make sense.
No, I agree. I think the Sunset Commission's a great idea. I think it's needed. I think everything should have a sunset. It shouldn't be permanent because that's how we end up with a lot of these things. And I think I'd rather pay a sales tax than never own my property. I think that's a brilliant idea. All right. Well, Shelley Hughes, we're out of time. Thank you so much for coming on board. As always, again, you can find her at alaskansforhughes.com. She's got her full fiscal list there and everything else. You can go over all that. We'll have her back on the program and talk about some of the other issues. But again, this is the most important issue. How do we pay? How are we going to make it for the next 5 years while all this other stuff is happening? Shelley, thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Right.
Good to be with you, Michael.
You bet. Hold the line for a second. Folks, we're out of time. We'll see you tomorrow for Firearms Friday. We will see you then. Have a great day. Okay, I got about 2.5 minutes here. I wanted to give Shelley final bite at the apple if there's something we didn't cover or something she wanted to expand on or expound on that we didn't catch. Shelley, I wanted to give you the final say there without the pressure of the clock on you, so to speak. So we got about 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, I wish I would have gotten this in, for your entire audience, but we are going across the state. I've been up to Fairbanks, I think 3 times, Kenai 2 or 3 times, down to Southeast. I have a fundraiser this coming Tuesday. We'll be announcing one in Anchorage that we're rolling out before the holidays. I have one down in Juneau. I am going full time. I have not ramped up until now. So we're just getting our campaign organization. I have a Rockstar A team. I have professionals, incredible professionals. I have people that have worked on multiple statewide campaigns that are volunteering. They recruited me, Michael. They reviewed all the candidates and looked at them, and then they approached me after 6 weeks of about 100 hours of meetings, and they have worked collectively on campaigns back to Palin, up to Dunleavy, Parnell, Kelly Chewbacca, Joe Miller, Nick Begich. I mean, so I have some great. I have people professionally that were in the communications world prior. I had people. I realized when I was asked to consider a legal analysis that would have Shower and I exit the same day, I said, and he wasn't willing to give me the documents. I can't do something we've never done before. I have to look at it legally. And I realized I have 4 attorneys that have stepped up to help me with this campaign, conservative attorneys. So, and by that way, that was a very flawed legal analysis because the word political group, you have to go farther down the statute, which defines political group as a group that is less than 5,000 registered voters. So it's like the Veterans Party is technically not a party, it's a group. So anyway, couldn't do that, and that had to do with the resignation. But anyway, crisscrossing the state, strong A team. I'm super blessed. My deputy campaign manager is a project manager in the real world, so she really knows, how to keep things on track. And Jared Godfrey is my campaign manager. He's from the business world, was in the corporate world, native corporations, but always holding the line, a fiscal conservative. Dunleavy appointed him to the Board of Fisheries. So, he's been on 20 boards and commissions. So I really have a great team. We have regional directors we've placed across the state, and we're going hard after it. And I just want to say there was some data that came out in closing, and it's a poll that, it's left leaning. I think they were skewing it a little bit for Mary. They didn't even put Tom Begich or Clayman in it. But in that poll, if the voting were to happen now, I would be in the top 4. And unfortunately, it showed that, of course, that can change. It's really squirrely. It's very, very early. Naturally, we know that it's very early. But that was even before I ramped up. Out of the 12 candidates making it into the top 4, I haven't been out there pounding the pavement, for months and months like some of the candidates. So I'm in a great starting point. And I think Alaskans want someone they know they can trust. They know that is competent and that doesn't back down, but also knows how to work with people and get things, and has shown I can get things across the finish line. So that's who I am. And if Alaskans want the talent, gifts and talents, the integrity that I have, I hope they will, as we've said in past campaigns, choose Hughes. And you're going to hear that jingle too.
Choose Hughes. Radio. Already out there. All right. Okay. Well, Shelley, thank you so much for coming on board. I appreciate you answering the questions. We're asking these of everybody. They're hard questions. They're not easy.
They are. It's great.
They need to be answered. So thank you, Shelley. Appreciate you coming on board today. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Have a great one.
You bet. All right, folks. That's it. We're out of time. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. We'll see you tomorrow.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.